recover lost SAP BI files. I'd imagine that many of you are with us this afternoon because you felt like this gentleman in the picture here, very worried and frenzied after something has been deleted or lost in your SAP BI instance. And we're going to share with you today a fantastic add-on product for SAP BI called 360 Suite that will help you more quickly recover any lost files in the event that it happens. Okay, so let's take a look at what we will be presenting today. I will begin with a quick introduction to Done Solutions, and then I'm going to turn it over to our presenter, Santosh, and he's going to talk about the backup and recovery capabilities in SAP BI4.x, and then he'll talk about the limitations that are there, and then he's going to do a demo and speak about how to overcome those limitations with this fantastic product called 360 Suite. All right, I hope that all of you can hear us. I assume so. One piece of housekeeping information before we get started. I wanted to let everyone know that, of course, questions are welcome throughout today's presentation. I have let Santosh know that we'll collect all the questions at the end, and he can answer them individually following up by email. It tends to work out better that way. So please do submit your questions, and we do promise to follow up with answers. All right. Done Solutions here has a long history of delivering innovative business technology solutions to companies. We are headquartered just outside of Chicago and have offices in Minneapolis, Raleigh, St. Louis, and Bangalore, India. Our offerings fall into three practice areas. Application Development Solutions features portals, e-commerce, and content-managed websites, mobile application development, and custom application development. Our Business Intelligence Solutions features analytics and BI platforms, as well as data warehouse and data integration. We are authorized SAP and library training providers. We provide classroom, virtual, private, and custom options. We also offer several out-of-the-box analytics frameworks. Our BI frameworks include solutions for accountable care organizations, corporate legal departments, higher education institutions, and retail optical shops. Please let us know if you're interested in learning more about any of these solutions. Done Solutions provides services across the entire business intelligence stack. These include back office activities such as data warehousing, data integration, and cleansing, as well as front office activities such as reporting, analytics, data exploration and visualization, and dashboards. We can provide assistance for any of these areas or even take charge of your entire BI environment. As an SAP Gold partner, we have the skills and people to meet your needs. We are an SAP Gold level partner and have been a top level partner for nearly 20 years. We provide national coverage, and as an SAP authorized training partner, we help companies nationwide maximize their technology investments and offer public, private, virtual, and custom training courses. Our public classrooms are located in Minneapolis, St. Louis, and Raleigh. Please contact us for any training needs that your company may have. And our clients, some of which are included here, are a combination of Fortune 500, mid-market companies, government agencies, and nonprofits across all verticals. Okay, today's program will be recorded. So in the event that you would like to share this with any of your colleagues, we will be following up with a link to the recorded presentation, likely sometime next week. Again, please do feel free to submit your questions. And at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Santosh for today's presentation. Santosh is based in our Raleigh, North Carolina office. So let me just give him the power here. All right. Turning over power, Santosh.
I'm in the process of accepting that.
Excellent. Okay,
let me know when you can see my screen.
Yep, we can see your screen. So you are live, and go for it. Thank you.
Yep, thank you, Lori. Thank you very much. So we are good to go. So hello, everybody. Good afternoon, and welcome to this webinar. My name is Santosh, and I'll be your presenter today. For people who don't know me, I'm Santosh Rudra, and I work as a BI consultant at Done Solutions Group. I work from Done Solutions Raleigh office. And you can reach me on LinkedIn, Facebook, or if you have any questions, you can also drop me an email at srudra@donesolutions.com. So that's a brief introduction about me. Now let's talk about the webinar. Today in this webinar, I'm going to discuss how to quickly recover lost SAP BI content. In fact, I'm going to discuss all the backup and restore options available for the latest versions of SAP BI. So let's begin the webinar by taking a look at the topic that I'm going to cover today. So I'll begin by discussing the backup and recovery options available for SAP BI4.x. Next, I'll discuss the limitations of these backup and recovery options in SAP BI4.x. And then in the end, I'll show you how we can overcome these limitations of SAP. So let's begin by taking a look at the backup options available in BI4.x. The first backup option is we can take a full BI server backup, which includes backing up the CMS database, the audit database, the input-output file repository, and the installation directories. Or we can also take a full BI server backup by taking a BI server image as a backup. It is recommended to take a full BI server backup when the system is not in use or when there are minimum number of users logged on to the system or the BI server. And all of these backups need to be made using third-party tools. There is nothing built within the BI suite to make these backups happen. The next backup option is the hard backup. Starting Business Objects 4.0, SAP BI 4.x, SAP introduced a feature called hard backup. It is suitable for high availability environments. So what it does is, once this feature is enabled, it allows us to take the backup of the BI content when the server is up and running. We'll take a quick look at that in a few minutes. The next option is the CMS to CMS transfer. We can implement a CMS to CMS transfer of the BI content as a backup solution. We can use the promotion management tool or the command line lcmcli.bat command to transfer or promote our BI content from one CMS server to another CMS. The other option is the bar file approach. We can back up our BI content as a bar file, and we can use the same tools, the promotion management tool and the command line, to perform these backups. But the bar file approach is not a recommended backup solution, and we'll see why in a few minutes. So first, let's take a quick look at the hard backup feature, and then we'll take a look at the CMS to CMS transfer and the bar file approach. So for that, let's go to the browser and go to CMC. Here in the CMC, I'm logging in as the administrator. The server is the Raleigh BI server, which is the BI server situated in Raleigh for Sun Solutions. So I'm logging in as the administrator on that server. And after I log into CMC, I go to settings. And in the settings, this is where I find the hard backup feature. So in order to enable this feature, I need to make sure that this little checkbox is enabled. Once this is enabled, what it does is it automatically creates a backup of the BI objects on the server whenever there is a change in any of these objects. For example, let me go to the BI server and show you what it does. So this is the Raleigh BI server, and this is the input file repository for a Webby report that I created. So here, I created a Webby report and saved it 8 different times. And what it did is it created 8 different copies of my Webby report in the input file repository. Had I saved my Webby report 100 different times, it would have created 100 different copies of that Webby report in its input file repository. And this is what a hard backup feature does. Once enabled, it automatically creates a backup of the BI objects whenever there is a change in any of these objects. And in order to preserve all these changes, we have to make sure that we take a backup of the input file repositories using third-party tools. So that's about the hard backup feature. Now let's go back to CMC and take a look at the CMS transfer and the bar file approach. So for that, let's go to promotion management. We can use promotion management to back up our BI content like into a bar file, or we can also do a CMS to CMS transfer as a part of a backup solution. So for that, in our promotion management, we need to create a job. So I already created a job for the purpose of this demonstration. So let me go ahead and open that job. The name is demo. So I check on the box, click the checkbox and say edit. And here in this job, I selected 3 different folders, folder 1, 2, and 360 eyes demo, which has few webby reports. I can add more objects by clicking on the add button, and I can add any number of resources from the BI server. But for now, I just want to keep it simple, and I just want to stick with these 3 folders that I selected. So I selected the resources, these 3 folders, and in order to create a backup, I need to hit this promote button. Once I hit the promote, what it does, it gives me an option to choose my destination. I can output it to a LCM bar file, which is the latest version of the bar file, or I can also choose to log into a different CMS server. In this case, this would be a CMS to CMS transfer. So all the objects that I selected here would be transferred to this new CMS server that I would log in. But for now, I just want to output it to a bar file for the purpose of this demonstration. So I selected the destination as a bar file, and these are the 3 folders that it's going to back up. And now I say export. So when I say export, what it would do is it would create a LCM bar file, which is the latest version of the bar file, the LCM bar file backup of the folders that I selected. For now, I don't want to save it because I already saved it, and we can save this LCM bar file in a safe place so that we can retrieve the content when we need it. But for now, let's say I just want to cancel it because I already have saved it on my desktop. So let's say cancel. So this is how we use the promotion management to create a backup of the BI content. We can transfer it to different CMS, or we can also create a bar file backup. We could do the same using the command line tool. But before that, in order to use the command line, we have to create something called a file called properties file. Let's take a look at the properties file. The properties file looks something like this. It contains a sequence of instructions for the LCM CLI.bat command. So in this properties file, the first instruction would be an action which says promote, and then I select the source system, and I select the destination system if it's a CMS to CMS transfer. Or I can also select a bar file location if I want to export the BI content as a bar file. And then I need to specify an export query, which contains the information of what BI objects or what BI content that needs to be exported. In this case, I selected my export queries selects few objects, few users, and user groups. So I created this properties file, gave it a name, usergroups.properties, and saved it. Now I want to pass this properties file as a parameter to my command line So I open my command line, go to the folder where the LCM CLI.bat command is installed, and then I pass in this file name, the properties file name, the user groups.properties file that I created as a parameter, and run this command. Once I run this, what it would do is it would create a bar file backup of the BI content or transform BI content to another CMS server according to the instructions within the properties file. And this is how we would use a command line to create a backup of our BI content. So now let's go back to the slide and take a look where we are. So we did discuss the full BI server backup, the hard backup feature. We did take a look at it. The CMS to CMS transfer using promotion management and command line, and also the bar file approach using the promotion management, the command line. Now let's take a look at the restore options in SAP BI4.x. A restore can be broadly classified into two categories, a full restore and a selective restore. In a full restore, depending on the situation, we either restore the BI server or we restore the BI content. On the other hand, in a selective restore, we restore the content that we are interested in. Let's take a closer look at each of these options. In a full restore, we either restore the BI server or the BI content, depending on the situation. If the BI server is down, we restore the BI server from a server image, or we incrementally restore the BI server by restoring the CMS database, the audit database, input-output file repositories, and the install directories. On the other hand, if the BI server is up and running, and if the BI content is corrupted, we can restore the BI content just by restoring the CMS database, input-output repositories, and the audit database if required. And we can also restore the BI content using promotion management tool or lcmcli.bat command from a bar file or from another CMS. A full restore is a very straightforward and a needed process to be in place, but a typical restore scenario that we may encounter on a day-to-day basis is a selective restore. What may happen is a user or developer may have accidentally deleted a report or folder and may want to retrieve it back once they realize that it is missing. So in that case, doing a full backup is not an option. We just need to restore the content that is missing. So how do we do a selective restore? Well, we can use the same tools, promotion management tool and the command line lcmcli.bat command to restore the BI content from a bar file or from a different CMS. Let's take a quick look at the promotion management tool and try to do a selective restore. So let's go to the central management console and promotion management. Earlier I discussed that in my discussion I already created a backup of the folders, of these three folders, the folder 2, folder 1, and 3DCI as demo. Now let's assume that I don't need folder 2 and folder 1. I already have a backup, and now there is no need for these folders. So let's assume that I don't need them, so I'll go ahead and delete it. So for that, what I'll do is I'll log on to the BI Launchpad, log in as administrator, and go to Documents, go to Folders, and delete them. So I say folder 2, I don't need it, I deleted it. Okay. Folder 1, I don't need it, I deleted it. Now, after a few days, I realized that I need folder 2 back. And now I want to restore it. So what do? No problem. I already have a backup, so I can just go to my backup and then restore it. I have backed up these folders into a bar file. So what do? My first step is I go to the Central Management Console and try to restore it. So I go to CMC, I go into Promotion Management. Since I already backed up as a bar file, I go to Import and say, let's import that bar file which has the content. So I say Import, browse to the bar file, and say OK. Okay, that's 1 sec. So I go here, import the file, and say date modified, and that's the file I want. Okay, so I log on, I choose my destination CMS, which in this case is the Raleigh BI server. And I say login. So that's my destination server, and I say create. So now what it did is it created the job on the server, on my destination server. Now this job has the content that I need and I want to restore. So this particular job has the folder 2, folder 1, and I need folder 2. So no problem. I'll go ahead and restore it. So what I do is I'll go to the promote, make sure the destination is the server that I selected. It's the Raleigh BI server, and I say promote. But the problem here is everything in this bar file gets restored if I do that. All the folders in the bar file, the folder 2, 360i's folder, and folder 1, everything gets restored. I don't want folder 1, which is unnecessary. If 360i's folder gets restored, it's going to overwrite the original on my BI server, and I may lose all the changes in this folder since my last backup, which is not what I want. I just want to restore folder 2. But there is no way for me to tell the tool that I just want to restore folder 2. I can't just select and do a restore, and that is the problem with the bar file approach. Everything in a bar file needs to be restored, or nothing gets restored. So in order to get around the problem, what we could do is we could change our destination. What we could do is we could select a different CMS server, log on to that server, and import everything and promote everything in the bar file to that CMS server, and then promote back just the content that we are interested in to our destination server. Well, this process works, but the problem is we need to have a dedicated CMS server which acts as a backup, which could be quite expensive to maintain. And it may not be always possible to get a readily available CMS server where everything gets promoted to. So that is the problem with the CMS and CMS approach. We need to have a dedicated CMS server, which may be expensive to maintain. And using SAP BI tools, there is no straightforward way to do a selective restore. So, and we'll have the same problems if we try to restore it using the command line. Even if we restore using the command line, everything in a bar file needs to be restored. Else, if you want to do a selective restore, everything in the bar file needs to be restored to a different CMS, and then from that CMS, promote just the content that we want to our destination BI server. Now let's go back to the slides and see what we discussed so far. So we discussed the selective restore using the promotion management tools and the command line from a bar file and from a CMS. Now let's discuss all the limitations of the backup and restore options that we discussed so far. The first limitation is when we do a full BI server backup, we need to take the CMS server database backup and the file repository backup. These two backups are two different jobs that need to run at the same time, and we need to make sure that these two backups are in sync. Else we will have problems when we try to restore. When we do a hard backup, when we enable the hard backup, there is no control over how many objects that get created in the input file repository. For example, if I save a web report 100 different times, 100 different copies of the web report get created in my input file repository. And I have to use third-party tools to take the backup of my input repositories. Using the bar files, I can do a selective restore. And if I do a CMS to CMS transfer, I need to have a standalone BI server which acts as a backup, which could be quite expensive to maintain. So clearly, there is no straightforward way to do a backup and restore using any of the SAP BI tools. So how do we do a restore? In the next section, I'll show you how we can overcome these limitations of SAP and show you what needs to be done so that we can get around these problems. Before I do that, let me introduce you a tool called 360 Suite. I'll introduce you this tool, discuss the features and components, and then I'll demo this tool and show you how we can use this tool to overcome these limitations of SAP. So the next section, I'll introduce this tool called 360 Suite, discuss the components and features, and then I'll do the demo for this tool. So let's begin by taking a look at the introduction for this tool. Just like CMC, 360 Suite is a web-based admin tool. Once installed, it can be accessed from any web browser, and the installation is quite quick and easy. It took me around 15 minutes to install it on one of our BI servers. Using this tool, I can log on to multiple business objects environments or BI environments and manage the security settings, document the server settings, run backup and restore jobs, do migration, schedule and burst reports, and I can even audit and do impact analysis of our BI environment. It is designed for SAP Business Objects XIR2 and above, and most importantly, this tool is an enhancement of CMC. It fills in all the gaps for CMC. Now let's take a look at the features of the components of this tool. This tool has 4 different components: the 360 View, the 360 Plus, 360 Cast, and 360 Eyes. Each of these components offers a unique functionality, and hence each component has its own pricing. The 360 View component allows us to manage security and document the server settings. The 360 Plus component allows us to do backup and restore, do migrations, and compare business objects environment. The 360 Cast component allows us to do report scheduling and bursting, and we can also pass in dynamic filters to these reports using this Cast component. The 360 Suite has its own engine which allows us to schedule these reports and pass in dynamic filters to these reports. The 360 Eyes component allows us to do auditing and impact analysis. For example, if we want to modify an object in the universe, but before that we would like to see a list of all the reports that may get affected because of that modification. Well, we can use the 360 Eyes component and generate a list of all the reports that use that particular object, universe object. But for now, let's focus on the 360 Plus component, which provides us the backup and restore option. So the 360 Plus component allows us to do a full backup and an incremental backup. It also allows us to do a selective restore. We can also do a version control. It also allows us to do migration and compare business objects environment. So let's log on to this tool, and I'll do a quick demo and show you how we can use this tool to overcome the limitations of SAP. So let's go to my browser, open and log on to the 360 Suite. I have installed the 360 Suite on the Raleigh BI server, and I'm logging in as the administrator. So instead of logging on to CMC, I'm logging into this tool as an administrator. Once logged in, at the top I can see all the tabs that allows me to browse or navigate on the BI server. I can use the Users tab to control the users and user groups. I can use the Object tabs to manage the folders and folder structure. I can manage universes using the Universe tab. I can manage the security using Security tab. I can do auditing from the Audit tab. But for now, let's take a look at the Schedule tab, which has the backup and restore options. So in the Schedule tab, we have 2 different Schedule tabs with the Schedule versions and Schedule migrations. These are part of the 360 Plus component. So if we have the license for 360 Plus, these 2 tabs will be visible, or else they won't be visible. This particular installation of 360 Suite has a license for 360 Plus, so I can access them. So the Schedule versions task allows me to create backups, and the Schedule migrations allows me to do migration. So let's first go into schedule versions and try to do a backup. So I go into the schedule versions and I click on this icon, plus icon, and then it opens up a window to create a task, a backup task. So I say backup 9, I create a backup set. I can select any of these resources on the server. If I select all these checkboxes, this would be like a full BI server backup. But for now, let me select a couple of them. So I go into the users group and I select a particular user group and say add. So I selected demo user group and I go into folders and I say I want to select one folder out of it and I say add. So I selected one folder. So beside each resource, there is a number that indicates how many objects being selected in that resource. If it's 0, that means none selected. If there is a number, there are so many objects being selected. Here in this case, I selected 2 objects, one for the user groups and one for the folders. Now, I want to schedule it. I can schedule it to run now, or I can schedule it to run every day, and I can set a start time or end time, or I can also set it to run one time on a particular day and time, or I can also run it from a different scheduler. For example, I can use this link and run this job from a batch file. I don't have to schedule it using this own engine. I can use it an external scheduler to run this job too. But for now, let's say that I want to set the frequency to now and run it now. And here the option for max versions. What this option does is it allows us to control the number of backup sets that we want to retain. The default is 5. I can set it to as many as I want. What it does is, no matter how many times I create a backup for a particular resource, it will only be backed up, it will only retain the last 5 backups or the latest 5 backups of that resource. For example, here in this case, I selected a folder called 360Is, and I select 5 over here. So even if I take 100 different backups of that folder, it is only going to retain the last 5 backups of that folder. So this is a very powerful feature that allows us to control this. As compared to the hard backup feature, it creates an object every single time whenever there is a change in the object, and there is no way we can control the number of object creation and then put file repository. But using this feature, I can control it. I can say 50, or I can even say 150, or how many times. But for now, let's say I want to keep it at 5. I can include the subfolders or inboxes or personal folders if I have selected any users or user groups. Imagine if I had to do the same using SAP BI Suite. It's a 3-step process. I have to first promote all my users and user groups, then promote all my dependent objects, and then promote all my primary objects. Using this tool, I just have to select the resource that I'm interested in, and everything else is taken care of. I can also specify the notification. I can say send an email and select the success warning and failure indicators. And I can even check this box to include the log file for this backup. But for now, let's say that I don't want to do any of that and say I want to schedule. So I selected 2 groups, 2 objects, 1 user group and 1 folder. While this job is running, I can click on this logs console and look how the job is performing, at what step it is. I think it's ended by now, so let's cancel that. It's 100% done, and just refresh it. And now we see the backup that I just created. So on the main page, the 360 of the schedule versions, all the backup jobs are grouped according to their statuses. We can see the pending jobs at the top, then running, succeeded, and failed tab. And this is the latest job that we did run. And we created a backup of the folder 360i demo. Now the backup is done, and it's 100%, says 0 seconds. How do we know a backup took place? Well, we can check that. We go into the objects. Objects tab is for controlling the folder structure on the server, on the BI server. So we go into the Objects tab. This is the folder that we created a backup of. And hover my mouse over that folder and I right click. And that gives me a list of all the backup jobs, that list of date and time when the backup took place for that resource. I can select any resource and select when the backup took place. If a particular resource has not been backed up, it would say non-version. So all these resources have been backed up only once. This particular resource is backed up multiple times. So let's say that I want to restore this resource to an earlier point in time. So this green button over here enables us to do that. So I select one of the resource, one of the timestamp, and say and then gives me an option to restore. I can say replace the object, or I can say duplicate this object. I can control the subfolders if I want to restore the subfolders and even the documents within the folder. For now, let's say that I want to create a duplicate of this object. I don't want to replace it. So I say import. It's been restored. So I go back, and there you see. That is the folder that got just created. And if I right click, it says non-version. That means that particular folder was never backed up. And that's how we do a selective restore. So it's as simple as that. Just do a right click and then restore to a point in time that we want to restore. Let me give you one more example. Let me go back to the Center Management Console. Earlier, in my demonstration, I deleted folder 1 and folder 2, and I tried to restore using promotion management, but I was not able to do that. Now let's use the 360 suite and do a selective restore and see how that works. So I go back to 360 suite, and I'm in the Objects tab, which gives me a list of all the folders on the server. I don't see the folder 1 or folder 2 over here. They're already being deleted. Now, how do I restore? Well, I can go into this little trash bin icon and click on that. That opens the window, and I can select the folders. And in the search box, I can put in any part of the file name that I want to restore. So here in this case, I say 2 and say go. And there it is, my folder that I deleted. So all I have to do is right-click on that folder and say, click on this green button. That will restore it back to where it came from, to its original place. And I can also control the subfolders, the documents, the recurring instances in that folder. So now let's say that I just want to restore the subfolders in the document and say import. It's been restored. So let's go back and see. There it is, the folder 2. Now let's try to do one more restore. Let's try to restore the folder 1. I can say folder, or I can also say 1. Anyways, I get. So these are all the folders that came back. So I right-click on folder 1, and I say restore. So folder 1 is also restored. So this is how we do a selective restore. We can restore a deleted object, or we can restore an object to its previous version. All we have to do is right-click on the object and restore it. So it's as simple as that. And there is one more important feature for the backup and restore. We can even control where our backup sets go to. In my case, I selected a network drive. All my backups take place. All my backup sets get saved in this drive. You can put a network drive or a local drive. It's up to you. For me, maintaining a network drive is more easier. So I wanted everything to go to the network drive. This is a very powerful feature to have. We can control this from the property. So So that's about the backup and restore. Now let's go back to the Schedule tab and take a look at the Schedule Migrations tab. The Schedule Migration allows us to do migration. So apart from doing a backup and restore, this tool also allows us to do migration. I click on the Schedule Migration, and this plus sign here that opens up a new window, I create a task. And I can select the source type, which is a CMS or a bar file. I can select any of the resources, and I can select my destination to migrate it to a different CMS or to a bar file. And I can also set the frequency to run this job. So this is a nice little powerful feature to have. We can even schedule the migration. And I've been talking about logging on to multiple business objects environment. Let me show you what that means. So I go to the home page, and on the home page I have two different login information stored. The first one is the server that I'm logged on to, and the subsequent login is the login details of a different BI server. I can save it for future purpose. So that, and when I click on this little icon, this arrow button over here, it just populates my username password fields with that information, and I say log on. Once I log on to the server, this red button over here becomes green. There you go. So right now I'm logged on to two different environments. What does that mean? Let's take a look. Let's go to the Users tab, and this is the Raleigh BI server, or the first server that I'm logged on. And all the multiple environments that I'm logged on will be visible at the bottom. So I can click on any of these environments, and it will pull up all the users and user groups according to the tab. Right now I'm in the Users tab, so it pulls up all the users and user group information. Now I can do a side-by-side comparison of the users and user groups between these two environments. Imagine if I had to do the same using CMC, I would have to open two different browsers, log on to two different environments, and compare side by side. What if I want to compare 3 or 4 different environments? I can't really do everything using CMC. I mean, I can't have 4 different browsers and compare everything. The same is with the Objects tab. I can go into the Objects tab, which allows me to control the groups, the folders, and I can compare the folder structure on each of these servers side by side, all in the same window. Let's talk a little bit about the Audit tab. The Audit tab allows us to audit the Business Objects environment, or the BI environment. I can create a list of empty folders. I can create a list of disabled users on the BI server and extract them into an Excel file by clicking on this Excel icon. I can make a list of all the users that never logged on to the system. I can make a list of all the reports that are being used per universe and have that information extracted into an Excel file. I can purge inboxes. I can clean up versions. I can delete documents. I can do a lot of auditing using this Audit tab, and I can do it for multiple environments. All I have to do is select the environment to which I want to audit from this drop-down and do the auditing. This audit feature is different from the 360 Eyes component. The 360 Eyes component is provides much more capabilities than this Audit tab. For example, if we want to change any of the objects in the universe, and we want to create a list of all the reports that use that object, we can do that using Audit tab. We need 360 Eyes component for that. So that's all about the backup and restore, and a little bit about this tool. Let's go back to the slides and see what we covered so far. So we did discuss the 360 plus feature, which allows us to do full backup and incremental backup. We can do selective restore. We can also do version control. We can do migrations, and we can also compare multiple business objects environment using this tool. Now let's compare this side by side with SAP BI. So when we do a full BI, when we do a full BI server backup using SAP tools, we need to worry about the CMS database and the file system backup to be in sync. But using 360 Plus, we don't have to worry about that. The hard backup feature in SAP BI, we can do version control. By version control, I mean we cannot control the number of objects that get created in the input file repository. But by using 360 Plus, we can control the number of backup sets or the backup objects that get created, no matter how many times they change or how many times we create a backup of. We can do a selective restore using SAP BI, but using 360 Plus, we can. There is no dedicated BI server required when we use the 360 Plus. But when we use SAP BI, we may need a dedicated BI resource, a dedicated CMS server which acts as a backup. And above all, when we use the 360 suite or the 360 Plus, we don't need a dedicated SAP resource to manage our SAP environment. We can train system administrators to manage our BI environment. So that brings us to an end of this webinar. Hope you all enjoyed it and learned something. So if you have any questions or concerns, please email me at srudra@dunsolutions.com. So thanks for watching and thanks for joining.
Great.
Bye.
Thanks, Santosh. And thank you to all of us to all of you for joining us today. We did receive a few questions throughout the presentation. We do promise to follow up with you individually on that. We will also follow up with a link to today's recording along with the slides. And if you have any interest in learning more about 360 Suite and its products to help SAP BI administrators better manage their SAP BI platforms, please let us know. We're happy to provide a demo on all or any of the products of interest. And we hope you have a wonderful rest of the week. Thank you very much for joining us. Take care.